One is an actor, one is a lorry driver, another is a spiritual guru. It doesn't matter what you are, but what matters is that you follow your inner call and that you live what you really want to live and what your meaning or sense of life is. I was always into, discovering the essence of life and questioning. And then there was one event when I was 13 years old. It was actually when I had a really, really heavy accident. And I was in a coma. And when I came out of the coma, it was like I had speech and I was totally in the present, but I had lost my memory. And then, I would ask in the hospital, where am I? What happened? And they would tell me. And then after 10 minutes, I would have already forgotten. But I could sense the vibe that they became impatient. And I would even address this. Oh, I can sense you're impatient, but would you please tell me what happened? And it was somehow funny when my parents came and they were so happy that I just woke up. And, I was also happy because I could mirror their emotion. And then I asked, oh, and who are you? And then my mother, she started crying. I was, okay. I have no problem with, the man behind you must be my father. I have no problems with you being my parents. And then slowly the memory came back. And it was like as if I had a choice whether I stay in this very wonderful kind of neutral state of simple presence or, the memories coming back were good ones, but also the bad ones. And that it's not possible to have only the good ones, that they only coexist together with the bad ones. And it felt like a spider web. Yes, and it was like re-entering a spider web, which could, for some people, mean that you are not free, but on the other hand, it gives you security and safety. So it was a deep, deep acknowledgement and finding of what actually life means, that there is a present state always, but that I could see how easily it's forgotten in the spider web, where we somehow lose our center and we get lost in stories. But that was really the start of my spiritual journey. When I first arrived in India, I was only 21. I was looking for a palm leaf library in Hyderabad, which I had heard of. And there were a few mystical things happening in my life. That's where I felt, oh, it's my destiny to find such a library. And in Hyderabad, I had a vision of Osho calling me to Pune. And I didn't even know he was staying in Pune, but I booked a flight ticket, flew to Pune, and then I found out that Osho has his ashram, or call it meditation and therapy center there, and that was quite amazing, so to trust that inner call and to find that he was actually living in Pune at that time. My first meeting with Osho, I always would think of meeting a person, I would meet the person in person. And even though I went to Pune to meet him, the first meeting was not in person. It was as if the body is a hindrance to really deeply meet. So it was in some kind of transmission happening where I was so close to him. And of course I also met him in person at that time. But I very often had the experiences that I would sit in his lecture where thousands of people would be, and he would really answer a question or give an advice that I was just busy with. So it was always really, really personal. And I even experienced at some point, even though we didn't have an intimate personal relationship because he had his people around him, he one time sent somebody who was really close to him to meet me and to say, just stay here and all is good and don't be afraid. And just allow that to happen. There was a very deep trust to whatever would be happening, whatever I would see, whatever I would experience. And also I realized it's not about experiences, it's about really simply being who you are. It was a big playground to be around Osho, because he offered all paths, spiritual paths that you can think of in order to find yourself. It was like a big university with 9 faculties. There was a faculty of Tibetan healing, of Western therapy, of Tantra, the faculty of Western medicine, the faculty of Zen sports. Yeah, so it was really like a fun place to experiment and to explore. After he had died, it took me 3 days to really acknowledge and see him in the eyes of everybody, or in the living trees, in all of life. Yeah, it was like recognizing Osho as, you know, the very life essence in myself and also in life around me. It was like, in a way, a gift of recognition that there is not really a separate me, but that we are all connected. So that was his biggest gift.